Hi, everyone. This is Joni McGarry. Thank you so much for tuning in. My guest today is Lisa Bennink. Lisa's from the Netherlands and was a practicing physician there. She started practicing medicine at age 25, and she quickly became a very well regarded, highly esteemed elderly care physician. Her intention was always to improve the quality of life of her patients and provide real healing, not just pharmaceuticals to suppress their symptoms. She was a very dedicated practitioner. During COVID, however, she became disillusioned with the Western medical system and the limits that it had built into the system. And she also saw how the COVID policies were depriving her patients of real informed consent and also subjecting them to intense cruelty through isolation because of the lockdowns. She left medicine and went on what is actually a real spiritual journey through the use of ayahuasca. And she's going to talk about that practice today and how it has opened her up to many new perspectives and new forms of healing. One of the best parts of doing this podcast for me is learning about things that I hadn't previously considered. And ayahuasca and the spiritual practice that uses it is something that I had never really delved into before. I found our conversation really educational and mind opening. So, without further delay, I'm really happy to share with you my conversation with Lisa Bennink. Hi, Lisa. Welcome to the show. It is really great to see you again. And I really appreciate you coming on to talk about your journey in medicine and also with ayahuasca, a topic I have known very little about until I've met you. Welcome, Lisa. It's good to see you.
Thank you so much, Joni, for this opportunity.
I'm just going to let you start where you'd like to start, and we'll go from there because your journey is a very inspirational and educational one for me.
Thank you so much. Well, I'm born and raised in the Netherlands, yes, in a lovely town called Groningen. It's in the northern part of the Netherlands, old university town. That's where I also did my medical school. I did. I specialized in elderly care medicine,
Mhm.
which is a specific discipline in the Netherlands. Um, So I worked mainly in nursing homes, long-term care facilities, also provided consultations, home visits, worked together with general practitioners and geriatricians. And I specialized in de-prescribing pills because I started working in long-term care as a medical doctor. I was 25, and then I saw all these patients on the chronic care wards, and I cared a lot for people with dementia, and they had just these endless lists of pharmaceutical drugs. And um, well, as a kid, actually, as a young person, I have underwent lower back surgery 3 times, and I know many of these drugs firsthand experience. And also, I'm quite aware of the impact of the side effects they can have.
Mhm.
And I just looked at these lists of the people, and I thought, well, I if I would take these drugs, I would be um, unable to come out of bed. So why would we give it to the older people? And I started to diminish these drugs together with nurses, and really step by step. There weren't a lot of role models. Actually, most of my colleagues were not aware of this, and people were they just accepted this as a fact of life. But yeah, I think my own personal experience, it really helped me see the and not accept it as a fact, as a given. So I that's what I did in practice, and it really people improved so much, and so that's
They improve so much being off of unnecessary and well, a pile of drugs, and so you were able to walk them through and pull out the drugs maybe they didn't need, and then you saw symptom improvement.
yes, that's right. So especially opioids, painkillers, but
Mm.
also psychiatric drugs. and, uh, actually, many cardiovascular drugs as well. I've written about this, about my experiences, um, and it was really, um, recognized by colleagues, uh, in the country, and, very much appreciated by families.
Sure.
Um, but it led me also to study um, the pharmaceutical industry, and I came to understand how the protocols we use as medical doctors, how heavily influenced they are by drug
Like
money,
f
by
Mhm,
um, yeah. So I thought of myself as quite critical of the system, and I just try to work my way within the system, trying to
mhm.
improve healthcare for not only for people I work directly with, but also on a national level. I was part of several committees, and I consulted for the Ministry of Health Care in the Dutch Ministry of Health, um, on behalf of the Association of Elderly Care Physicians. Um, so I tried to make a difference, um, but then when 2020 happened, it just um, I I couldn't be part of this system anymore.
Mhm.
When this whole story unfolded, yeah.
With COVID, yes, and it right about this time that you, had some other experiences that maybe, woke like, enlightened you or opened your mind, with ayahuasca or with other plant medicines that enabled you to step outside of that paradigm a little bit?
Yes, that was really fortunate because so for years I'd had my doubts um, about the medical system, about healthcare, and I was thinking, well, do I want to pursue? Will I continue working as a MD? Um, it- I didn't really. I was I was not unhappy, but I
Mhm,
was not depressed in any way.
mhm,
But I had these like life questions. And a friend of mine, she told me about ayahuasca and indicated a group. And then in the summer of 2020, I went there. It was yeah, a group of people who been very dedicated for years, very spiritual setting. It was in nature. We did
mhm,
a walk in nature. Uh,
and this was in
for
the Netherlands?
Yeah, it
And to
was
be
in the
clear
Netherlands.
this is not 'cause, my familiarity with these kinds of substances, I don't wanna call them psychedelics because I've read some of your work, and I think that's very reductive about these, but, to be very clear and to make it clear to anyone listening, that it wasn't a recreational outing. It was a deeply considered, spiritual experience. Is that correct?
So yes, the people conducting this workshop or retreat, they had studied, and I mean studied, had a spiritual practice together with people from Brazil. They weren't able to be there at that time
Mhm,
because of the difficulties with traveling. Um, but a really experienced practitioner. Um, so I felt really secure there. Um, and yeah, in the Netherlands, um, um, ayahuasca was legalized in a ritual setting since the mid 90s until 2018, actually. So it was, m- yeah, more available. People had the opportunity to really study with the medicine.
and can you tell me when you went on this walk, with this, what is what happens? And, do is how is the, plant medicine prepared? can you tell us more about the mechanics of it? Because, after we talked before, I had some more questions about that. Like, what does this look like? What is the experience like in that setting? And maybe talk about how that differs from what your experience is now. But what happens when you decide to open yourself up to this experience?
Sure. So ayahuasca is a very ancient brew. It's been with us for probably millennia. It's from the Amazon region, so that's a very big, and it's traditionally used by by the indigenous people, by tribes. Exactly how old it is, that's as far as I know, there's no conclusive archaeological evidence for it, but probably for at least for hundreds of years, but
Hmm.
probably a lot longer. And it's made up. It's a brew cooked from a vine and a leaf. Has many different names. Jagubi, Shakruna. Um, it's quite amazing how they combine these two with, because especially the substance in the leaf makes or in the vine makes the DMT that's in the leaf more readily available. Um, so it has just the combination of these two plants has a very powerful healing effect. Um,
And they're cooked together. And are they cooked together at the site where people take them? Or
so they
Do
are
you mind me as I mean, these are detailed questions, but I think most people just
sure,
have no idea. And also
yeah.
it will provide a contrast, I think, to what, the pharmaceutical companies would like to do with this stuff if they could. So it's interesting to me. I think it's also it sets the stage about, like, how, holistic it is in the setting that you're describing.
Yeah, so ayahuasca, there are these two main components in different traditions. They'll add something, but I talk mainly about the experience from Brazil because that's where we've studied, and then specifically Santo Daime tradition. So that's I'll talk about it a bit more later. Um, it's a process of days or longer, depending on how much medicine you intend to brew to make. There's a whole preparation of getting the vine from the forest and picking the leaves. So the leaves are like a bush. It's similar to a coffee plant, and you pick the leaves and you clean the leaves and you prepare it. And there's a whole people who go out and prepare. They're part of normally of belong to a group who works with it, or the people who do that. They follow a certain diet, and they are um, when making the brew, the ayahuasca, you drink the medicine. So it's a process of days of really commitment. And we've had the opportunity over the years to participate in a couple of these feitios making process of
Okay.
the ayahuasca. And it's a very beautiful and sacred process um, where you sing together, where it's on big pots on over open fire, and um, it's the whole time there are people there singing, and yeah, with a lot of pure energy, because the ayahuasca, it's really for people here, all people who work in a serious manner with this medicine. People consider it as a sacred, as a being, as a divine being, and it's as a medicine, but yeah, as something more. It has a spirit, it has the
Mhm.
energy, so it's very much reverenced and treated with yeah, utmost respect. And then it's um, prepared here in Brazil or
Mhm.
in Peru or wherever. And in for the US situation, it's prepared, it's brewed in Hawaii.
Mhm.
I've never been there, but it's not something. It doesn't grow in Europe. I know they've planted in some southern European countries. They planted, but there's difficult legal issues there.
Mhm.
Um, but
So
yeah, main
it's prepared in these, environments where it grows, and then is it sh and so it can be shipped to another group that will treat it with respect. It's not like they sell it outright to anybody. It has this, like, it sounds like it has this spiritual chain of custody, so that when people decide to, participate in this ritual, it is like a very holistic and integrated pipeline from the people that are preparing it with that kind of intention to the people that are, ingesting it for that spiritual teaching,
absolutely. Yes,
which
right.
is
That's
very
right.
different than, um, like a drug trade or a recreational thing, and I just wanna point that out because most people who don't have familiarity with this, myself included, think of it as like, "Oh, it's tripping or it's something else," and, I've learned from you that it's not that, it's something else entirely. So, anyway, we let's circle back to what you did on your walk and how that changed how you thought about the world and yourself in it.
Yes. So yeah, there's so much language we have in our heads, and it's something I wasn't at that point. I wasn't familiar with it, but I had some experience with mushrooms, with psilocybin, and yeah, I was told so ayahuasca is more intense, and I thought, okay, so I'll get answers to these life questions, and I had some I had beautiful visions for second times. Um, I didn't really. It wasn't. My life wasn't resolved immediately after that in any way, and that's not. It's ayahuasca is not a quick fix or anything. It's a tool. It's a powerful tool. It's a medicine for self insight, and um, in the end, it depends really on yourself, what you do with it, what you do with these insights, on what it brings to you. But what it the first couple one of the first couple of times, um, what I didn't expect, it really brought me in touch with my femininity, and I um, felt the earth as a mother, and it was just um, so powerful, just
Mhm,
something I never um, experienced. And so I grew up very rational person. Um, I I became to I went on to become a medical doctor. I've studied. I have a master's in philosophy as well. I've always been very eager to learn. I've been very curious, but very. Um, I mean, the Western culture is very rational culture.
mhm. Very
That's what I was.
materialist.
Yeah, that's how I was trained, how I was formed, and in the Netherlands, so that's different from the US. I think most people are atheists. I didn't have any contact with spirituality in my upbringing, um, and but atheists in a quite harsh, dogmatic way,
Mhm,
and it's just how it was. And I never had the inclination to look for spirituality, or I practiced yoga, tai chi, but meditation I tried, but just more for, okay, I'll be more productive. That was
mhm.
my thinking, and
Yes,
I
I
really
get that.
didn't experience anything with it. And I just, okay, so in order to prepare for this first walk, for this first encounter with ayahuasca, they sent some recommendations like sit in silence and think about your intention. And I did, but I just, my mind kept on going like a monkey brain.
Mhm,
And I really didn't know how to meditate. And but I wasn't aware of it. um but over time, ayahuasca has really helped me to have this silence, this inner silence, and to ob be able to observe myself. And it also, it brought me, just a bit out of my head and into my body.
Mhm.
And that's something I mean, for me, this is my path, this is my, journey, this is my spiritual practice. But there are many paths, of course. It just, um, it's something so, uh, powerful and beautiful that it for many people, it works. Um, you can talk for hours, you can go to therapy and whatever, but it's the same thing. It's in your head, and I
Mhm.
was stuck in my head, and ayahuasca, it really helped me land in my body.
And so back to the experience of it, and first of all, I totally relate to being in your head all the I have had practices sometimes in my life where I've been a little less in my head, but that is where I firmly live is, that machination, all the thinking over and over again, all those thoughts. And I have a lot of thoughts in my head all the time. So I don't think that's a terribly healthy or holistic way to live. So when you do if you I don't even know what to call it when you go on an ayahuasca ritual, or you're having this experience. How long does it last? I mean, I've heard that it can make you physically sick. Um, how long is the whole process start to finish? And then what happens afterwards? It sounds like you had this opening up and this awakening to other sensations and other experiences outside of your head in a beautiful and spiritual way. How long does it take
Mhm.
from start to finish? What happens? And then what happens afterwards? I'm just interested in the
Yeah.
mechanics of it.
So normally, a ceremony, um, can last up to 5, 6 hours, or it can last the whole night. Um, and most time you drink, 2, 3 times, maybe 4. Um, so we've traveled quite extensively throughout Brazil. We've spent half year also in the Amazon rainforest in the state of Acre. And most indigenous, uh, people, the, tribes where we've studied, Huni Queen, Shenanawa, they, tend to do this ceremony all night long. So they start in the late evening and go
Mhm,
till sunrise.
mhm,
But then there are all kinds of, yeah, ceremonial settings where people drink during daytime or
mhm,
late afternoon, uh, can be, so normally, uh, so I prepare the days before with the diet. Um, well, obviously, avoiding any alcohol,
mhm,
avoiding meat, and just eating pure and natural, and then not eating the couple of hours before at least. Um, and really, also, so that's a big part, but also, being very aware of what you consume, like via screens, or so I tend to turn off my cell phone and not consume any news or any
mhm,
negative energy. I'm very much aware of that, to create this space, to meditate, to go out in nature, and then, to also already become, get into a state of silence, um, and then, you drink the medicine that's, in a group setting normally. Um, there's, silence, there's concentration, and then there's music, there's singing, um, and, yeah, it's, so ayahuasca, it's really, it connects you to the divine. Um, but it's also quite, it can be quite physical. It can be quite intense. It's a purgative, so it
Mhm.
it can make you vomit or have to run to the bathroom.
Mhm.
It's uncommon, but it can happen. The purging can also come through via tears, um, just a release of emotions, actually. So there's all kind of expressions,
Mhm.
and really, so I drank in the Netherlands, um, and then the first time I drank, I met my now husband,
Right.
and he had already 4 years been drinking the medicine. He had already lived in Brazil, drank it here, and then studied it within the Santo Daime tradition in Amsterdam. Um, and when 2020, so they closed for a while, and he prepared the brew at home. So we drank together, the two of us, and then later with small groups of friends,
Mhm.
but very also in a serious setting. And we drank maybe about 10 times this first half year, um, and it was really beautiful, magnificent. I had most profound insights about myself, about my childhood, about my family, about I really got to relive some heavy stuff I had experienced in my work. I I literally saw myself walking through the nursing home and reliving certain situations, and I could really experience the gratitude for having had this formative experience at such a young age,
Mm.
to witness people dying, to be there when they passed away, and to be able to um, provide comfort for the
Mm.
family. And it was just um, um, it felt like I never struggled with it during my work, but reliving it within my journeys, it just it yeah, it was so beautiful, very, very healing. Um, but then I thought, after 10 times of drinking, I thought, "Okay, so I know this medicine. I know what it's about. I can navigate it." Um, I was quite arrogant, I think. Um, and then we went to Brazil. So my husband, he has 3 Brazilian kids. He has a story here. He already spoke Portuguese fluently, so we
Mhm.
had a reason to come here. Um, and also, yeah, we our intention was really to study modern day ayahuasca culture here in Brazil.
Mhm.
So we came here for a sabbatical for a couple of months, but it was such a beautiful journey. We ended up staying, and
Mhm.
um, actually here in Brazil, drinking here in Brazil the first couple of times, it really opened up an whole other spiritual dimension, because it's such a I think because spirituality here is such a lived reality for the people. They have it's and that's very sharp contrast to Europe, especially Northern Europe, where it's that people, they do their best, but it's just not. I can n I don't even have the words to speak about spirituality in Dutch.
Huh.
I I quickly learned Portuguese. I speak several languages, um, um, and it just the Portuguese vocabulary, it's just so much richer
Mhm.
to describing all kinds of things that we encounter during these journeys. And I think it reflects the acceptance of people here, and just it's um, yeah.
Well, it's like the embodiment of, spirituality and, like, what you mentioned, the lived experience versus having a very rational, atheistic, or even if you're not an atheist in, a different kind of culture, it's all external.
Yeah, it's
It's
very
it's ex
skeptical,
Yeah,
very
skeptical and
judgmental.
yes, and so it sounds like a real cultural thing. So, over time, it sounds like the experiences deepen and, change, and do you set an intention beforehand to say, "This is what I'm open to learning," or is it a really organic process where, it seems like this plant medicine, this teacher, spirit embodied in this plant medicine shows you something? Like, do you s
Yes. Well,
because it
I
that's gonna be very contrasting to the talk now about using these kinds of substances to treat a narrow or specific illness or addiction or whatever, and so it just I wanna understand how it's being used now and then talk about the risks of it being used in a different way.
Yeah, so Brazil, it's really beautiful because it's a spiritual setting, but it's very in a group and it's very charity based. So
Mhm.
it's very much accessible for all people to participate, and that is a contrast to what many Western people might have heard about uh, high end retreats in Peru or other countries. In Brazil, there's not these um, people drink it here to heal themselves and to help others find healing too. And so it's been legalized here since the late 80s, um, and they
But
legalized.
it's not commercial, right? There's the distinction there was interesting to me. Talk about that. It's legalized in a spiritual setting, but it's not able to be,
Yeah,
quote, "commercialized," because that
yeah.
seems like
So
an important distinction.
yeah, that's it's very interesting. They sent out this group of researchers to see because it was already practiced here um, um, by many indigenous people, and also um, in the in Brazil there are three modern lineages that use ayahuasca as a sacred sacrament as well. Um, s- and from the so this is born out of the Amazon region, out of Acre, but from the 80s it has spread all over Brazil actually. Um, and so it wasn't uh, um, they investigated um, how people were in terms of health and psychic well-being, and they just evaluated as a very healthy practice without risk for public health or anything, and that's how it became accept yeah accepted. And then they invited the leaders of these spiritual traditions to they collaborated to form this document in which they described that it should never be commercialized, and that it should not be sold, and also that it should not be without outside of clinical trials. It should not be used as a in a therapeutic setting. Um, that's a maybe a strange distinction, but it's setting boundaries, really promoting yeah the use of ayahuasca within a spiritual or religious setting. That
So when you
that
say
was the
not in
intention.
And so when you say not in a therapeutic setting, not in a setting where somebody goes into, a hospital room and it's administered and the people around them are not with them, they're observing them, that kind of thing, to treat something
Yeah,
versus to experience it.
yeah, yeah. So that's so it's a bit strange because it is therapeutical, but there's a big distinction of going somewhere like individually, or versus the practice that it's a spiritual practice, and that's what they try to highlight, and it's really worked out very beautifully here in Brazil, I think.
Mhm.
Um,
What percentage of Brazilians do you think, and maybe you don't have this stat, but how many Brazilians, participate in this? Because it's a country that culturally seems that it's very open to it. It's, obviously, even the government has looked at it and, you know, been on board in seems like the best of ways with it. Is it a widely spread practice, or is it something that's not so widely spread?
it's quite difficult to get the data on this.
Mm,
I asked so many people. There are some estimates, but um, I've most what I've heard people say and what I've found is that it's maybe 1% of the people. So in absolute numbers, that's a lot. There are over 200 million Brazilians,
mhm,
so
mhm,
maybe 200,000 people. Um, but yeah, still, it's a minority, and it's a taboo here. It's not something I say in the first sentence when I meet new people, because no, yeah, people are quite judgmental about it. I
mhm,
mean, there is in Brazil there's a lot of openness towards spirituality.
mhm,
There's also a lot of openness towards herbalism, towards homeopathy.
mhm,
But yeah, there um, are quite some um, evangelics is big here, and people have been really misinformed by media. I think that's um, so that's everywhere in the world, but here as well. People have great misconceptions about what it is, and
mhm.
yeah,
Well, I sure
unfortunately.
did. I have had a lot of misconceptions about it, and then just an absolute lack of knowledge. So, um, talk about you said the Santo Daime tradition. Did you wanna talk about, that and where it comes from and how it is a network for this or however well, you can just tell me.
Yeah, so the Santo Daime tradition, it's originated in Acre, in the state of Acre, that was at that time a territory, not even part of Brazil. So that's it borders with Bolivia, with Peru,
Mhm,
um, and there was this man, Raimundo Erinho Serra. He came from the north, from the northeast, and there was this rubber tap industry at that time, and people came there to work. And he was a young man, um, big, like very tall, black man, descendants from slaves. He was born just after the abolishment of slavery. Um, and he drank the medicine with indigenous people on the border with Bolivia. And at a certain point, he had insight to do a diet and to drink medicine for 8 days, and then he had a vision with the Virgin Mary,
mm,
and she instructed him to create this doctrine. Actually, it's um, it's a modern day practice, shamanic practice of drinking this sacred brew, which within this tradition is called daimi. There are so many names. It's all the same holy medicine, but
mhm,
it's with it has specific rituals.
mhm,
And so he created this. He started with it in 1930. He was already um, yeah, a healer, a medium, someone who was very much in tune uh, with higher dimensions.
Mhm.
And he got following, and people saw came to him for healing, and he got quite well known. Uh, Also, he had famous connections with politicians, with doctors who came to him for healing, and um, other traditions have emerged there as well. União do Vegetal and Barquinha. We've studied this a bit as well, but our main lineage where so me and my husband, where we've studied and where I consider myself part of, is the Santo Daime
Mhm.
tradition. Um, and then it grew from so he uh, passed away in 1970, 71, and then yeah, people continued with his work. Most well known is Padrinho Sebastião, and he was actually the one who helped spread it across Brazil.
Mhm.
And so it in all big cities, and then it has spread, and also through to the Netherlands, where in the early 90s there was this lady, and it's a special story because she had a brain tumor, and she didn't know what to do, and she went to somehow she had heard about this, and she went there and drank ayahuasca and stayed there a month and got better. And then she took the medicine back to the Netherlands, and um, she continued practice, and she cured herself, and she
Wow.
kept on living for 25 years. Her name is Geraldine Feineman. I didn't meet her personally. I know many people who did, and I read about her story. And she's actually known here in Brazil because as Madrinha Geraldine, because she founded Amsterdam Church, Seoja Santa Maria, which is one of the biggest places outside of Brazil that since the late 90s have practiced this um, yeah,
Tradition.
ever since. Yeah, and it's so within the Santo Daime, there's a calendar, and there are many forms. There's a traditional form. There are also more modern day forms, which I personally prefer. But um, people tend to drink or consecrate the medicine several times per month,
Mhm.
and come together in for concentration, for silence, but also for singing. And
Mhm.
that's very beautiful. That's really what captured me, the musicality, because it's so pure and it's so divine, and it brings so much healing when you sing together in a group. And I have never in my life, I've never sung. Um, I've never played any instrument, um, but here I started to listen. I it During the force of the medicine, it just I started to understand the music. I started to I I was never able to clap a rhythm. I would, but then it's just I just didn't know how. I didn't hear it, but now it just it makes sense, and I can feel it, and I can my awareness of music is improving so much, and I started singing. Now we sing, the two of us together as well. I've For the last couple of years I've sung also alone for
Mhm.
groups, for other people, and it's it helped me to free my voice. It's been very healing, and so this happens for many people that your while drinking the medicine, your voice actually changes, your extension, your range, your pitch, it improves. It's quite extraordinary. So many people who were already musicians, their play their guitar play or
Mhm,
whatever instrument, it also improves a lot. There are people, it really opens up your creativity. It helped me in my writing. Um, for other people, it has helped them make beautiful art or
mhm.
um, yeah,
I
it's a
the example of not being able to clap a rhythm and then having this transformation where you see and understand on a different level than just concentrating on trying to clap a rhythm with your thoughts is, to me, so illustrative of the power of this, medicine. So, if you're doing this, several times a month in this tradition, what is the impact on the time when you're not doing it physically? Is it and these seem like nuts and bolts questions, but this is what I think is helpful to understanding what it actually is in real life. So you have these ceremonies for several hours where you have these extraordinary experiences. After it, is there some kind of aftermath? Is there sort of a, I don't know, for better lack of a word, a hangover or an after impact that takes some recovery from it? Or is it pretty seamless in just a normal everyday life?
yeah,
And
it's
forgive my lack of language around this because, I'm a pretty uptight, mentally driven person who's very curious about this. I can't quite get over the threshold to get on a plane and come down and do this with you quite yet. So, anyway, forgive my lack of language about it, but how does it work in real life when you're doing this several times a month? What happens when you're not doing it?
yeah, so it's actually the opposite of a hangover, and that's very interesting because many of the drug substances we tend to use or are more accepted in society, they leave you with a hangover. But
Yes.
ayahuasca is really the opposite. It's when you drink it, it can be strong, it can be
Mhm.
intense, it can be difficult, it can confront you with um, sides of yourselves that are, yeah, it will show you a mirror of things you've done. Also, not the pretty things, how you've hurt people, for example, but afterwards, so in the days afterwards, you will always feel lighter. You
Mhm.
feel, uh, from the first time I started drinking medicine, I, f- I felt more alive, more um, wanting to engage with life,
Mhm.
just a sense of joy, a sense of wonder, a sense of awe um, for the universe, actually. And yeah, you can feel a bit tired. It's important to have rest and to go outside, to have to spend time in nature.
Mhm.
And what I've done since we are here in Brazil, so since 2021, I've taken notes for every ceremony we did. I've taken so diary notes. I've books full of notes of reflections because um, I um, uh, I understand that it wanes off the effect. So you have this beautiful and profound insight, and then it's very clear the hours or day afterwards. It's very sharp. So I'd have to change this or do this, or I want to spend more time doing this, and then it wanes off the
Mm.
effect, and you go up to you return to your normal daily life, and it just, yeah, it fades away a bit. Um,
But not
but
entirely, because you are imbued with this light, and I didn't know you before, but there is a quality about you that seems a little bit otherworldly to me in the best of ways, so I think it seems like a repetitive, intentional practice of this does change you, you know?
What
And
it
again, I didn't know you before, but there is that quality about you.
Thank you. Well, for me, so we've studied it quite intensely,
Mhm,
really did a deep dive and really with a lot of, um, yeah, surrendering ourselves to it. And also, so we've made quite some changes in our daily life.
mhm,
First of all, we had the time, we were not working at that time, at first. And so we had a lot of time to integrate, to study, and then study. I'd say I stopped reading all medical books because it's just nonsense to me. But
mhm,
I started reading a lot of spiritual texts, and we went to a lot of so related spiritual practices that are available here in Brazil, to participate and to study really in practice. And what happened for me, and this was really not an intention. I had never had any problem with alcohol, but it was a social aspect of life.
mhm,
But ever since I started drinking ayahuasca, I feel no inclination to drink alcohol. It vanished from my life.
mhm,
We m- I might like the taste of beer for a few sips. I don't like the effect of alcohol anymore.
mhm,
Um, or life, um, we tend to rise at sunrise. We just go along with the seasons. We go outside for walks. It's just things that happened really quite naturally. I
mhm,
have a lot of time now for meditation, for silence. Um, it happened naturally and also
mhm,
consciously. I mean,
mhm,
it's really um, I think I see it like this: you have to make changes in your life if you want to proceed on this path, because else it just yeah the medicine, it does make you more sensitive to um so I was never big fan of big cities, but now it's so harsh, the sound and the energy. It's just something we really try to avoid. We live more remotely
mhm.
now. So yeah, there it it does change you
Sure.
for the better, and I think yeah.
Well, it sounds it just brings you into more natural, communication with what is more natural. I mean, cities are,
Yeah.
cacophonous and unnatural and, um, full of lots of
It
jarring things. But I wanted to get back to one of the things you talked about in terms of, the healing of this, the healing powers of it. And in just a small example of, now you're disinclined toward alcohol. Not that you had a problem, but just, it kind of lifts that from you is being inclined toward it at all, which makes me want to segue into what a lot of people are talking about with these kinds of substances in their utility in potentially curing addiction or getting people past terrible PTSD, all noble goals, especially because it
yeah,
sounds like these substances have the power to change your mind, to change your being in some powerful way that,
yeah.
we're not gonna put down in a clinical trial. But now we're talking because you referenced because you wrote an essay recently that I think is going to be published soon, and you were kind enough to share it with me about listening to Joe Rogan and Bobby Kennedy talk about these substances and how they frame it is the absolute need to make sure they're done safely in a clinical setting. And at first glance, I think, well, of course, that sounds right. You don't want anyone to get hurt because that's our safety culture and our framing of the materialist medical, paradigm. But you have a different take on that. And so you talk about that in that essay. Could you tell me what your concerns are about that framing and the use of these products, substances, plant teachers to in a very narrow therapeutic setting.
Yeah, so I'm so grateful for Brazil for having had this opportunity and this experience here with the spirituality, because um, and coming from a medical background, I think I'm so much more aware of the risks involved of medicalization. That's really been a central issue I've been concerned about for a long time. From my perspective of my background in ethics, I've really much looked into public health, and then so I didn't want to become a doctor. I wanted to become a scientist. So when I did my medical training, I participated in a lot of scientific research.
Mhm,
So I have a lived understanding of what this world is about and how it's shaped by also by the industry and by
mhm,
it's not driven with finding the truth. But the main issue is it's very it has this materialistic reductionist view of what it means to be human, where per definition there's no room for spirituality. So the whole subjective experience of people, um, um, yeah, w- w- what it, the healing people find in these practices over uh, for centuries, for millennia, um, they don't take this information seriously. They are studying it as just very much apart from the tradition, as a substance, as a derivative.
mhm,
So that's how psychedelics. That's like a term that's being used, but actually psychedelics. So they are extracted from compounds of nature, extracted from psilocybin mushrooms, and then purified
mhm.
and synthetically uh, created in order to have, yeah, same dose always. But it's really it does away with all the sacredness and
Mhm.
all the tradition, and many people, um, with very well-intended people, it doesn't have it's nothing about the, but there is really a risk of pharmaceutical capture in this and of
Oh, I think a big risk,
commercialization.
right? Because if somebody's gonna push this to the forefront in our country and make it, socially acceptable and legal, there's gonna have to be a lot of money behind it, and that money is gonna be pharmaceutical money, especially if, as people have seen, this is powerful stuff and can appear to make a really big change in people's, pathologies or their,
It
compulsions, anything like that. So, yeah, I think
It
there's a
can,
big
yeah,
risk.
and it has been used. It is widely used here in Brazil. We know many people who've dedicated their lives to help people come off of addictions
Mhm.
using ayahuasca or daime. Um, but then in a spiritually grounded setting, and that's really what I wish for everybody to not be labeled as sick, not be labeled as a patient. There's this hierarchical relationship, the doctor patient, and you're very dependent. And here it's just we are human beings among each other. There's a we're all on the same path, and we can learn from each other. And there's
Mhm.
this shared space, and there's touch, there's this embrace, there's this, um, and that's really so healing, and that's really what you take out of the equation when you bring it to clinical practice.
Well, right, and one of the things you pointed out in your essay was in the sacred setting, the person, like, maybe who's administering the drug or providing the setting or setting all of it up, they are also participating. So everyone is, like you said, in it together. It's a journey, it's a shared journey, it's a shared space. In a medical setting, you have the patient who might be ingesting something, and then the observer who is not, and who possibly and probably has never taken any of these substances and experienced that. So that seems like it is a completely different ball of wax. But is it possible that those substances could still have utility in that setting? Or are there so many pitfalls that, it could just be a negative thing?
Um, yeah, that's I think, I mean, there are, um, so many well-intended people, of course,
Mhm.
and, but I think people are really, really not aware of the risk of capture because and also, so they are pushing for more clinical trials, but there's no talk about, having it available for all people. So it's,
Right.
of preserving the spiritual traditions that are, I mean, ayahuasca is legal here in South America in I think in 7 countries where it originally grows. Um,
In the US also, you can get some kind of special licensure in a spiritual setting to use it. Is that correct?
yes, that's correct. There are a handful of um, churches that have gotten this exception
Mhm.
because it's really not common. Um,
I can see
we
that. I could see that going away entirely if this became, part of the pharmaceutical paradigm, because then the narrative would be that this is the safe way to do it and, the profitable way to do it, and it's possible that those maybe that's just paranoid thinking on my part, but it
no.
seems like that would be a risk, that not only would you be studying this or using it in a non-spiritual setting, that industry by its nature would want to eliminate paths to healing that wouldn't make them money.
Yeah, no, I think that's a very powerful influence, and so it has been decriminalized in Oregon, in Colorado, and yeah, there's what I've learned from friends there um, is that they are indeed pushing towards that you'd have to do like a facilitator training and in order to be able to work with this medicine. But then it's really, yeah, it's your putical framework instead of the lived experience
Mhm.
and the spiritual practice that it is here in Brazil. And yeah,
Yeah, we're a culture that has to regulate everything, right? And, we've been brainwashed to think that if somebody's not, certified or licensed, it's unsafe. Even, getting a manicure in this country, you have to go to a certified, registered, manicurist, so we're really trained that way. What do you think is gonna happen with these? What would you, with these substances, how do you see it unfolding in the US?
that's a difficult question because
Yeah.
well, we traveled through the US. That's also how we met, right?
Mhm.
Because I feel the calling in the future to move to the US, and um, because I'm um, yeah, quite happy with the um, with s- yeah, people like yourself that have stood up for freedom, for medical freedom.
Mhm.
That's something that's so vital to me. And we found freedom here in Brazil because of the chaos and the. But there's really nobody really. It's not an issue here. People are not aware of what's going on, um, and um, but having, yeah, the legal situation with ayahuasca for me, that's a big question mark, because it's so much, yeah, part of our lives.
Mhm.
that I'd really wish to continue this practice and to be able to share it with others in
Mhm.
a um, yeah, in this charity-based spiritual way. How
Without
I
worrying
was,
about breaking the law. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, in the way that I have experienced it here, and that's really what I wish for other people as well to experience it. Um, yeah, in a humble setting, because that's really what it humbleness. That's the one of the most important teachings I think for the ayahuasca.
Do you see yourself and your husband, maybe coming here and, starting, a Santo Daime, church or, organization that could be a setting for that practice legally? And being part of a movement to make sure that those rights stay in place as this product potentially gets pharmaceuticalized?
This plant, yeah. Yes, um, we do. Um, I want to make clear that for us, it's always been a spiritual practice, and
Mhm.
that's how I want to keep it. So what we're working now to make our money in a different way. Um, my intention is to open my own online clinic to help people come off of medicines
Mm.
to um, yeah,
So
provide
necessary.
support for, because that's was my specialization. Now I think I'm very much, I think, outside of the medical system, and um, I was looking for ways on how to practice again, and traveling through the US and meeting so many wonderful people. It really inspired me to think differently. And people told me, yeah, there is people who seek out this kind of
Oh,
advice
for
and this kind of knowledge.
and
So
increasingly so, since COVID especially, I think people are really looking for different modes of healing versus just the medical industrial complex that everyone gets funneled into. So, yes.
so that's what we're working on. I'm writing a lot. I'm writing articles, but I'm also writing my book about the whole journey we've made and about my transformation here, and really sharing my story. But yeah, and we're these last couple of months we've been really working um, to open the this practice.
Well, I would love to have you back here. Lisa, before we break, what do you have any other, things that you wanted to make sure we shared here?
There's so so much more to say. um, yeah, what I really wish for people and what I found through this practice is it brought me in touch with our innate self healing, and with the, yeah, capacities of our bodies to to heal themselves
Mhm.
if we give them the right opportunity. And that's really what I intend to share with other people as well. Um, I think we've been, yeah, indoctrinized in so many ways to um, to get away from ourselves and to get out of touch with who we really are. And um, ayahuasca to me is like a gift to humanity. It's part of our um, common heritage, and it's not the only way. There are many ways. There are
Mhm.
many medicines. There are many plant teachers. But for me, it's been a beautiful, and it's a beautiful journey. And yeah, I'm a changed person. I'm so, so grateful.
Oh, that's just beautiful, Lisa. It's totally inspiring to me, and I think your journey from being an atheist, materialist, reductionist MD to this being who is so open and filled with light and the divine is, I mean, it's a testament to what can be, and, I love your story, love it, and I wanna have you back on to continue it, and I hope you come to the US, just selfishly, so we can run into each other more. Is there anywhere people can find you? Are you online? Are you doing any, gosh, I hope not, social media? Is there a place where people can find you? Or I can also put links to some of the essays you've written. We can talk about that offline.
Yes, please. Yeah, so the name of the practice will be Strelitzia, which is actually the name of the beautiful flower plant, tropical plant, also known as the bird of paradise. It represents joy and freedom and transformation. And so we just launched a Substack and an X account. My husband really,
Alright.
it's been a great help. Because these last couple of years, I've been mostly offline.
So
I didn't have
smart.
a lot of media presence, but
Well, I will
he
link.
is incentivizing me to get the word out there. Yeah.
Yeah. Alright, great. Well, it was great to see you, Lisa. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Joni.